How we doing on this Saturday, Big Orange Nation? This is Frank, House of Orange, coming at you. The big topic around Tennessee football, really, ever since the national championship game ended, has been Carnell Tate. Would Carnell Tate enter the portal? If so, would Tennessee get involved with him? And that talk's been going on for a while. I mean, it goes back a couple years during his recruitment. There was a point in time where it was believed that Tennessee led. Ohio State ended up, of course, getting Carnell Tate in the fold, and he's played, still as wide receiver number 3 this year. He was considered, he still had over 700 yards receiving. He was still a big part of it. So people naturally thinking, well, does he want to go somewhere else and be wide receiver number 1? But it was announced last night, as yesterday was the date he needed to be in the portal, or I guess it announced his intentions, and then Ohio State had 48 hours, which with the weekend would have extended probably about into the middle of next week on it. I think it would have been similar to Mike Matthews, but Tate did announce he is staying at Ohio State, so we can put that one to rest. To me, it was a pipe dream anyway. I never really believed it was going to happen. The couple times I've discussed him on here, I said I would be really surprised if he hit the portal on it. And I seen Austin Price, VolQuest.com, saying in a thread that he'd heard that Tate got compensated close to around $2 million on that. And it was saying that Jeremiah Smith had an offer in the portal of over $4.5 million. And I think it was Pete Nako. Was it Nako said that Smith staying at Ohio State going to make over $3 million? I may be wrong on Nako saying that, but I did see that somewhere. But Ohio State they're doing what they have to do to win. There's no rules saying you can't pay these guys. I mean, there's nothing. What's wrong with it, honestly, is that people were able to tamper with Carnell Tate. I don't like the tampering. I think it's wrong. And now, with that said, should Tennessee tamper? Yeah, absolutely. They should. It's not illegal. It's happening to Tennessee's guys. Why should Tennessee not do it as well? So if Tennessee was tampering, good for it. I don't agree with it. I don't think it should be legal. But what do I know? The NCAA, here's what I do know. The NCAA has their lack of governing this has made it an absolute mess. And you could theoretically, a guy could switch schools every year that he's in college and get more money every time, just go money chasing, theoretically, on it. It's not a good system. It's not with unlimited transfers. I don't have a problem with the NIL. I don't have a problem with the portal, but guys transferring 4 and 5 times, come on, man, give me a break. But Tate, a part of me says good for Tate. He stuck with his committing to Ohio State, stuck with them. Yeah, he's getting compensated for it as well. You just won a national championship, to me, especially when you'll be at worst wide receiver number 2. There are probably games he's wide receiver number 1 next year. With that said, the schools mentioned were Oregon, Texas, Tennessee. I think if you were going to hit the portal, if you were him, you would, if you're truly wanting to be wide receiver number 1, I don't know that Oregon would have been it. I don't know that Texas would have. Tennessee has an opening for it for sure. But now we get into, where does Tennessee go from here? This Carnell Tate dream is over. I never got real caught up in it. It was one of, I said it on here, I would have to see him in there to believe it. And he didn't. So where does Tennessee go from here? You got 7 known wide receivers in there, and 4 of them have never played a down of college football. One of them has played minimal college football, and Braylon Staley. I mean, did he get 100 snaps last year? Possibly amongst he did play in the blowout games. He did play in the bowl game, or the playoff game against Ohio State. Of course, you had Mike Matthews, Chris Brazzell. That looks to be your main 2 guys coming back. Staley 3. Now you bring in Travis Smith Jr. You bring in Radarius Jackson. They are on campus. They are early enrollees. You have Joakim Dotson, another freshman. He is not an early enrollee. And then, of course, you've added Amari Jefferson, transfer from Alabama, originally from Chattanooga. To me, the X factor in this could possibly be, though, Boo Carter. And because it was said when he was talking to hitting the portal, he wanted to play both ways. Stephen Hargis, Chattanooga, writes, I can't remember, is it the Free Press, Free Times, or he used to anyway. Back when that was going on, he posted on Twitter that he had spoken with Boo Carter's family, and they said it wasn't about NIL or anything. He wanted to play both sides. And so looks like that will happen now. Now, to what extent? Is it just going to be the package when he comes in? You know, he's getting a reverse or a screen pass or something, or are they going to fully incorporate him as an actual wide receiver, run him some in the slot? You know, could they line him up in the backfield? There's a lot of things you can do with him. And with this staff and where they've been offensively, you better get as creative as possible with it this year. But to me, that could be a big X factor here. I'm high on Travis Smith Jr. too. And I keep seeing this stuff about, well, this offense is too hard for these guys to learn. That's bullshit. All right. That's fact. That is absolute bullshit if that's the case. That we're making it's that complicated that we got to come back and forth. I mean, that we're running sideline comebacks. What's complicated about that? Come on, man. I mean, what was the excuse with Mike Matthews last year then? It wasn't that he couldn't block, because we saw him block and he was probably the best wide receiver blocker on the team. I don't buy into that. I've seen those comments. Well, it's a tough offense to pick up. Give me a break, man. Simplify it. Simplify it. A smart coach will simplify it. You don't necessarily go away from your strategy, but you simplify it. And based on what I see, they pretty much run the same routes every time it's third down anyway. So I don't get that. But if you watch Travis Smith Jr. highlights, he's a big guy. He's fast. He can burn. Now, that was high school. How does it translate to college? But the fact that him, Rodarius Jackson, Amari Jefferson are on campus to go through spring practice, I think it's big. It's big that, and it looks like all of your receivers who are there are going to be good to go for spring practice. Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, Chris Brazel as well. I think it's huge for them that they'll be able to do that. Nico, McIntyre, Merklinger, looks like they'll all be good to go through spring practice as well. Build this confidence. Get them going, because to me, it's a prove-it year for Kelsey Pope. And it's a lot of guys on this offense. Pope, Glenn Ellerby, Joey Halsley. All three of those guys, to me, based on what I've seen the last 2 years, based on what we've seen here, these guys are coaching for their jobs, in my opinion. It's my opinion. I don't necessarily think they would get run off next year, but you guys that's my perspective on it. It's prove-it time for these guys, to me. You've had 2 subpar years of offense. I had somebody yesterday say you call a top 20 get over my battered Vols syndrome. I don't subscribe to that theory anyway, because offense was top 20. No, that offense lit up Chattanooga, Kent State, UTEP. That's why they were top 20, because they had insane numbers against Chattanooga and Kent State especially that put them up there. You look at SEC play, no, it wasn't anything to write home about. I mean, the Vanderbilt game was probably their best offensive output in conference play, in my opinion. It was a slow start, but after that first quarter, I felt the offense played really well with it. Here's my problem. I go back to the portal here, though, and I saw Austin Price allude to this, and this was kind of wet with my thought as well. Really, spring practice, I mean, who's in the portal now is in it. Notre Dame had a couple guys hit it, but nothing that just nothing stands out. And Ohio State didn't really have any big players. Tennessee got who they needed from Notre Dame in terms of Sam Pendleton. It's a big pickup for them. The thing to watch out for is going to be spring practice. Does any guys hit the portal after spring practice? That might be where you're able to add somebody at that point. But, we'll see. I think Tennessee dropped the ball in the portal. I think a guy like a Dane Key, I would have liked to see them went really hard in on him. And I've seen it mentioned, well, Squirrel White wasn't in the portal yet. I don't care if Squirrel White's in the portal or not. You needed a portal wide receiver. Dane Key, to me, you're going to be hard-pressed, in my opinion, to find a better portal wide receiver than Dane Key. Well, I don't get their philosophy. Maybe they just were not interested in anybody. And maybe the interest was not reciprocated either. It does take two to tango on that one. But the fact that they weren't more aggressive with a guy like a Dane Key. I mean, you had guys, Singleton from Georgia Tech looked pretty good on it. Nick Anderson from Oklahoma looked pretty good as well. I mean, I've seen Barryon Brown. I think somewhere along the way, I don't think that one would have ever happened. It seemed to me like there was some hurt feelings multiple ways on that one. But, just looking through the port, I mean, there was Concepcion from NC State. There was Noah Thomas from Texas A&M. Of course, there was Branch. Talked about that Tennessee tried to make some contact. I don't know if it was a case they tried to make contact late or if he just was not receptive to them throughout the process, because there were some rumors that they were trying to make contact there. But to me, if the guys would not reciprocate the interest, that's one thing. If they were just banking on Carnell Tate going in and trying to get him in and tampering, that was a bad philosophy. Again, with Dane Key in, Dane Key to me was the best wide receiver in the portal. He would have been cheaper than Carnell Tate, but he's pretty dang good too. And he's going to Nebraska. So I don't know, man. I do have a problem with how they attack the portal here, but it is what it is at this point. I do like who they have in the room, but it's young and it's unproven. Boo Carter, X factor. Brazel's got to take the next step. Mike Matthews has got to live up to that 5-star potential. Staley I thought he showed pretty good in the Ohio State game. And then these guys coming in: Jackson, Travis Smith Jr., consensus 4 stars. Dotson, depending on the publications, either a 3 or a 4. So there's talent. Now it's a matter of developing them. And, construct your scheme to bring out these guys' abilities. Motions, screens. Use the halfback out of the backfield. So they've just got to get more creative. I don't think these guys have gotten dumb overnight, because I know with Golish and Hooker, that was a whole other dynamic. And I'd never expected them to be that good the next 2 years. But I didn't expect that much of a drop-off either, that we would go from this fast-paced, high-energy, exciting offense to a boring, bland-ass offense. And that's basically what it is at this point. Wrap it up on that one, guys. Tennessee, Auburn tonight. The plan is not to go live. I could change my mind, though, at some point tonight. We'll see. But probably not. I wouldn't count on that one. But you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. This is Frank, House of Orange. Always a great day to wear the orange.